Now, the Secretary of State presents a document for farming for the next 25 years, when this government won't last even 25 days. Instead of using their 14 years in opposition to create this document, they have dithered and delayed for the last 2 years. But they did not dither and delay in making life harder for rural businesses. One of the first acts of this government, of which they're all so proud, was to target family farms and family businesses with their death tax. As Labour MPs and DEFRA ministers voted repeatedly for the family farm and family business taxes, DEFRA ministers shut down without notice farming payments, including SFI. The record of this government, sadly, is rising food prices and record numbers of farms closing. They broke the trust of farmers, and they have only themselves to blame. Yet she stands here today wanting to be thanked by rural communities for producing a document which could be shelved quietly by whoever comes next, just as they seem to have shelved the 10-year plan for the NHS. And for all the talk of the new SFI scheme, you mark my words, of the new SFI scheme and budgets, the fact is that they have cut the farming budget by £100 million. But in another leap from reality, the government's negotiations with the EU get barely a mention in this document, despite the enormous consequences this will have for farming businesses. CropLife UK has estimated that this EU reset could drain £810 million from UK farms and sacrifice almost 9,000 jobs from our rural constituencies. The Food and Drink Federation states that the wholesale handover of our food laws to the EU will lead to at least 400 regulations needing to be changed. So how will the government ensure that UK farmers can compete against heavily subsidised EU farmers, including, of course, our tenant and upland farmers? This matters because food security is critical in this increasingly volatile world. What reassurance can she provide that the next cabinet will prioritise farming and food production? Now, we Conservatives view DEFRA as a vital economic department, so we agree with their efforts to recalculate farming and food producers' contributions to the economy. And by the way, I note that Reform call themselves the Farmer's Friend, and yet there is not a single Reform MP in the chamber. Now, had the Secretary of State attended cereals at Diddley Squat, she would have seen for herself that the sector is already driving innovation. The government is therefore playing catch-up with them, but we hope that the intention to work with the Business Department to deliver reductions in compliance costs and to focus on innovation and technology will actually happen. The plan to bring DEFRA farming services into one integrated service are much needed and reflects Conservative calls for Quangos and the department to be overhauled. Now, there are many questions still left unanswered in this report, and I hope that the Secretary of State tries to answer them rather than deflect, because that has been noticed. The plan looks to double the funding for Environment Agency inspections. Why is this government focusing on bureaucracy rather than helping farmers survive? What does she say to the tenant farmer of a well-run dairy herd who has been told by the Environment Agency that they must invest up to £750,000 in order to guard against a risk that there may be a pollution event in 50 years' time? As that tenant farmer said to me, there won't be a farm there in 50 years' time, as they simply cannot afford that payment. There's also no mention of closing the flag loophole on food packaging to help our constituents to buy genuinely British food and to back British farmers. Why not? The report says there will be no cut to food production, but also says there will be a reduction of 9% of land available to produce food. So how can the Secretary of State guarantee our food production will be protected when key tools such as gene editing to develop drought-resistant crops are at risk in their negotiations with the EU? And in her final act in this department, will she please advise the Right Honourable Member for Makerfield that the first thing he must do is to axe the family farm and family business taxes completely? Otherwise, sadly, this will be a roadmap to nowhere for struggling farmers and food producers.
Oh my gosh, well, how do I follow that?